The original has like a really sustainy, long bass melody, sounding like this. Really epic, nice sounding bass line. And it is kind of the original one. I used like a section, as you can see here, from the later part of the track, of the remix stem, which sounded to me the fullest. As you can see in the waveform, you know, it's always changing and always behaving differently. So I felt like this is a nice looking waveform. This looks like it has a fat, this is the fattest part, so to say, of the sausage. So I used this part here and looped it. It is playing basically the original notes from the remix stem. I only did the timing a little bit differently, also because the original timing or BPM of the track is a little bit lower. So I had to kind of work my way around it. So I cut it up. I cut up the different notes here, as you can see, for it to align better with the track. As you can hear, it's playing the same notes now, but in a different timing. It's coming down to the root note, which is starting in the beginning here in the later part of the bar here. I boosted the low end a little bit and took a little bit of the higher frequencies off here. And also, at some point, it seems like I played a little bit with a overdrive, which is a really nice tool, which I like to use when I want to show the bass line in the breaks. Because once you take the low end off from a bass line, it's really hard to hear it in a break situation playing when there's a low cut on it. It's just adding some subtle harmonies or some subtle top frequencies to the bass sample, but I felt like it's always a nice thing to try out. If you don't have too many other synth elements playing in the break or something, to really make the bass line more prominent. Later on, when there's the full lower spectrum playing in the drop and stuff, you don't really need it that much. You could. But especially in the break situations, I like to try this out to give it a little push and make it hearable. Bam. So this is the part when it kind of switches from the original vibe a little bit more to a housey vibe, so to say. I did a bass line, then with the Diva again, which is one of my most favorite plugins to do bass lines with. It's so versatile. And for this sound, it doesn't need to be, because it's a really standard kind of house sound, I would say. You know, it's down there with the classic sounds which are used in the house realm. It being a solid bass, so a saw wave, I think, with a really crazy envelope. And now it's mimicking the same notes which are being played by the original bass line, but it's getting a more rhythmic feel to it now, since it doesn't have as much of a sustain as the original one. I boosted the bass line with a drum bus, which is one of my favorite tools to give it a nice little push. I feel like it's this or the saturator with the preset a bit warmer. A lot of people use it to yeah, give the bass line a little bit more of a push, or to do it on the drums, as the name says already. But the drum bass, I feel like, has nicer controls. I like the drive, I like the crunch, even though I don't use the crunch really that much because it overdoes it a little bit. It is kind of like an overkill for me most of the time. I love the damp function on it as well, because it takes sometimes the harsh frequencies away a little bit, which I don't need. And yeah, you have a dry wet. Obviously, you have it with the saturator as well, but yeah, a compressor on it, and a trim and transient thing. The transient thing is not existing on the saturator, I think, and this can also do some nice effects sometimes to the sample that you're treating it with. But yeah, for this I had the standard preset, I think. Used the drive on 20 on soft and dialed the dry wet to 71%. And it just gave it that nice little push that you want in your solid bass. Then I got rid of a little bit of a frequency which was, I don't know, yeah, in the way, by turning it down just a notch here on 135 Hertz. It felt like it gave more space to everything else. Then put a sidechain compressor on it. 99% of the time, there are a few exceptions, but 99% of the time I have a sidechain on it, sidechain with the kick, give it a little bit of space again. Sometimes I try to play with the dry wet here as well. If I feel like it's taking a little bit away too much of the bass or of the bass. Sometimes the kick and the bass really harmonize well together, and then you don't really need that much of a sidechain, I think. But yeah, most of the time I think it's on 100%, and then I just go here and, you know, play with that yellow dot until it feels and sits right. Yeah. Then I think, since it's a really rhythmic bass sound, rhythmic bass line, it's always really nice to just try and put a delay on it. You hear it in a lot of the old 90s records as well, that the solid basses are treated with reverb and delay, and it really gives it a nice, it adds a nice rhythmic texture to it sometimes. So on this bass line here, it sounded like this. With a ping pong effect, so it adds the stereo image, and I'm gonna put it to 100% or I'm gonna dial it up as it plays for you to have a look at how it sounds. Yeah, so just really subtle in the background with 12% on, because the more you put the wet up, the more it takes away from the original bass plate, obviously. You could create a send to get rid of it, but I feel like if you just dial it up to like 5 or 10% or something, if you stay in that kind of spectrum, you can just push the volume up again from the sample, and it doesn't matter too much. In this part of the remix, where we get into the first kind of drop with a changing bass sound, I played some higher notes with the solid bass, because it's just a rhythmical part, you know, there's no vocal going on or something, so there's nothing which we need to give space to. You know, most of the time when you have vocals sitting on top or something, it's nice if you keep all your synths and your bass in like a lower frequency spectrum, so the vocal can breathe and you can fully hear the potential of the vocal and make it more understandable if you leave the frequencies in the track to the vocal at this part. So here I went high with the solid bass, playing higher notes and filling up the higher frequency spectrum a little bit. But what I felt was going on when I played the higher notes with it, it was missing a little bit of the low end. So I added a little bit of a sub underneath, which is going to be barely hearable for you guys, but yeah, it just adds a little bit of a sub to it, giving it more, yeah, bottom end and making it juicier. And here, it is only really at this occasion that you just heard that I put in another bass as a layer, but it was kind of like a homage to the original bass line. You know, I wanted it to just tinily resemble the original bass line here before the vocal drops in again, playing the same kind of notes that the solid bass is playing. So, as I said before, now the vocal comes in again over here. And I wanted to give space to this. So what I started to do is play the higher notes, which I played before, play them an octave lower. And it changes from this to this. More darker, more evil, nicer. Then it didn't need a sub anymore because it was filling the lower frequency spectrum quite well already with this. So what we got here is then this. Rhythmic part again, this time with the original bass line, and a nice little drum loop which I found. I think I was listening to the 90s radio, shout out, where they always have some nice good old 90s classics, as the name says. And there was a band or DJ producer called Wickfield. And I heard this break in there and I knew like, this is such a cool break. I made like a little note on my iPhone to sample it later on. And it sounded like this.